Hey everybody, taking just a couple of minutes to talk about some last minute tips for your comparison contrast essay. Hopefully, you've had some time to look through the sample essays, to go through the screencast, and you've started developing your own idea for comparison contrast. But I just want to give you just a couple of last minute tips and some instructions so that you can make sure that you're following the format correctly. So, for this particular essay, you can decide if you want to do soul comparison, if you want to do soul contrast, or if you can do a little mix of both. And honestly, for the length requirement, choosing one or the other for the essence of time is probably a strong idea. However, you can do a mix of both. Remember that with a comparison contrast essay, a couple of things. Number one, you still have to have an introduction and a conclusion. Your introduction sets up your purpose for comparing and contrasting, and then your conclusion ties it all together. You also can, as far as your organization goes, I'm going to show you a couple of things. I've got some sample essays here to show you in just a second. But it's really going to be, and we've talked about this multiple times, you've got to find something that means in order for it to be powerful and relevant. That's so what factor for your reader. So comparing apples to oranges or college, two different colleges just by saying the things that they have in common, that's not enough. You have to find some kind of element that brings that to life for your reader. You also don't want to, for this particular essay, you don't want to choose a side. It's not a preference kind of thing, like this one is better than this one. You're just laying out these differences or laying out these similarities in an effort to make them plain for or bring them to your reader's attention. Okay, so let's take a look at just a couple of sample essays really quick. And I just picked some. These are all real essays actually from the last time I taught 101. I wanted just to kind of point out a couple of things on these essays, things that people do well and things that people maybe not quite so well. So this particular one obviously is about comparing a best friend with an acquaintance. And I wanted to look at this one because I wanted to see I wanted to talk about this introduction. So the definition of a friend has evolved since back in the day. When times were less complicated, a friend was simply someone who was there for you. However, today's generation has put an emphasis on the level of friendships. A clear line has been drawn between a friendly acquaintance and a best friend. That line consists of the connection, the relationship, trust, and accountability. Here, this is a pretty solid introduction. I've laid out, or this person has laid out, the two things that she's going to be discussing in this paper. So it's very clear from the beginning that this paper is going to be about a best friend versus just an acquaintance. That last line there is functioning as a thesis statement, these last two lines. And I know that she's going to look at this contrasting relationship through the lens of connections, relationships, trust, and accountability. So I know that she's going to do a paragraph about the connection, how it differs between a best friend and an acquaintance, how a relationship differs between a best friend and an acquaintance. It's a really good way to lay it out and help keep you on track if you make sure that you introduce all of that into your introduction. All right, let's take a look at this one. Many people plan vacations year-round for a weekend getaway or an extended stay. The two most common vacation destinations are the mountains and the beach. Both of these can be very peaceful and relaxing, but different in their own unique ways. People choose either of these destinations for their climate, the activities, or the scenery that they offer. Okay, so I know that we're going to be comparing a vacation to the mountains, a vacation to the beach. He chose to look at these through the lens of climate, activities, and scenery. So that means that we're going to look at either how they are similar or different in climate, similar or different in activities, similar or different in scenery. I do want to point something out though. here in this very first paragraph. He says climate plays an important part in how someone will enjoy their vacation. If one likes cooler weather, they might have a hard time enjoying their stay at the beach. The beach climate is always warmer and sometimes downright hot. The beach is sunnier. Finding places to cool off can be challenging. And then he launches into the mountain vacation, and he talks about it's drier and fresher air. Finding shade is easy. It sounds like he is favoring one of these destinations over the other, and so you want to make sure that you avoid being biased. You want to eliminate that from this comparison contrast. I also wanted to look conclusion here. Taking a vacation to the beach or to the mountains are both great ways to spend time away from daily home and work routines. Whichever destination a person decides for them and their family can offer them a peaceful and relaxing time. The variety of climates, activities, and scenery are enjoyable. They are unique vacation destinations in their own way. So again, he references back to that whole line that he followed, because he did that paragraph about climate, paragraph about activities, paragraph about scenery, and just kind of concludes everything together there in that last little paragraph. All right, so this one I wanted to point out. This guy chose to write about cross country and track. One thing I do want to point out, with MLA format, you want to make sure that there's not this gap here, that there's just one space between the header and the title. And then with regular MLA, you don't ever do anything fancy to the title. It should be Times New Roman, 12-point font, no italics, no bold, no underline. Some of you are getting that wrong every single week, and the MLA should be the easiest 10 points that you're making every week on the essay. I wanted to point this one out because he did a different structure. Like in the previous essays that I showed you, they talked about the mountains and then they talked about the beach. This particular essay has 4 paragraphs. It has an introduction, a paragraph on one of the two things he's comparing, a paragraph on the other of the two things, and then a conclusion. So either one of these structures is okay. Many people think that cross country and track that should be the same thing. For so long, people have used the wrong term when talking about the two sports. It is true that in both sports you run. However, there is a lot more to it than that. And he lines it up to have one paragraph about track and how it's different, one paragraph about cross country, and that kind of thing. But I did want to point this out. If you tell your reader in your introductory paragraph that you're going to talk about cross country and track, then paragraph 1 or whatever, if you're doing the 3-paragraph part where you talk about one first and then the other, you always follow the same layout that you set up in your introduction. So if I say cross country and track, my first paragraph or the first part of my paragraph should be about cross country first, and then followed by track. So make sure that you follow that. I know that sounds very ticky, but as an organizational strategy, it helps with your flow. It keeps that balance all the way through. Hopefully you have been working solidly on your essay. Keep these tips in mind. If you have any questions or you need to contact me for any reason, you know how to reach me. You can text or you can email. And I look forward to reading your comparison contrast essays.